Battleline podcast. Chris Peranto is in the house, of course. My name is Ian Scotto. For the new listeners, every week on this show, we interview a pretty wide array of guests from all different fields, but mainly special operations military veterans. Those are, at the forefront of who we interview. Guys like Greg Anderson, who is a Army Ranger veteran, contractor. Yeah, in the first segment, we're gonna actually remember a friend of the show, John Bartolo, who unfortunately passed away the other week. We'll get into that. But yeah, and for the old listeners, I do want to point out that Chris and I have discussed it with social media right now. There's been like a massive reach for everyone,
or a massive reduction in reach. It should be.
Yes, that's what I mean.
Yeah. I wish a massive reach. That was like back in the good old days when they first started. But yeah, now it's ridiculous, completely ridiculous.
And the reason I point this out is because that is a way that we get new people to check out the podcast. And we're losing that, but because of that, we could really use your help if you guys leave us reviews on Apple Podcasts. That's really the primary way that people find out about us. I look at where people are listening, and a good 90% of you guys listen on the podcast app on your iPhone. So, if you just go to the search feature, look up Battleline Podcast, write a review, give us 5 stars, that really helps us out. So please do that. It would mean the world to us, and it would expose us to new listeners. With that, man, I am excited. We're less than 2 months away from the opening of the Fort Scott facility, Fort Scott training facility, in conjunction with Battleline Tactical. And it's going to be great. I'm going to be there May 6th and the 7th. But the only way to get in is through this contest. Fort Scott Munitions manufactures patent match-grade ammunition from solid copper and brass-spun SCS SBS rod that is designed to tumble upon impact, TUI, and it leaves devastating wound channels in soft tissue for faster bleed-out and swift incapacitation. In a climate with increasing demand for tactical readiness, Fort Scott Munitions is expanding to deliver unmatched results to the tactical training industry. FSM Training offers live fire ranges, modular simulation ranges, 120 silos for rappelling, and facilities for scenario-based training. So as I said, in partnership with Battleline Tactical, FSM's training's grand opening is launching May 6th and 7th via an exclusive Copper Ticket event. Here's how you get in on this. The Copper Ticket event is an inclusive 2-day carbine and pistol course, close to $4,000 worth of FSM TUI ammo, lodging, food, and travel, all included. And the only way to do this is basically to buy ammo through their site, which is a win-win for you guys because it's getting harder to find ammo. And with that, you guys will get included in this contest to possibly be there with Chris, with myself, May 6th and 7th. And not just us, a really wide array of guys. Clint Morgan from Classic Firearms, Matthew Patterson from GOA, Jared Yanis from Guns and Gadgets, Hank Strange, of course, who's been on the show, Braden Langley, Langley Outdoors Academy, John Keys and Shermichael Singleton from Guns Out TV, Jesse Fenley from Knuckle Down Dynamics, and TJ Thomas Kurgan and Alex Milberg from Tactical Shit. So get in on that. Link is right there in the description. And you'd also go to fortscottmunitions.com and use the promo code Battleline for 15% off, as always, with all their merch, with all their gear. I'm excited for it. Hope to see you guys there. But as we said, you can't pay to get in. You can just buy ammo and you will be in on that contest. And brand new sponsor for this show, Out of Regs. Out of Regs is a veteran-owned and operated business, hand-making water-based pomades right here in the USA. Former military, they know the challenges and intense lifestyles of those who are on the front lines. They've created a product that can keep up with them, and their pomades are strong and resilient, yet nourishing and healthy, easy to apply, and easy to wash out. Staying in regulation has been instilled in the minds of military personnel everywhere, groomed, dressed, and abiding by code. Every moment you're in regulation is another moment you wish you were. Out of Regs, they'll keep you in code while encouraging you to push the limits. And of course, they have new Tonto's hair paste.
Tonto hair gel.
Which is your signature item. And this is something you use every day.
Right? No, it's fantastic. Me and Joe Van, who's 11 Bravo, 10th Infantry Division, he's the one that runs Out of Regs. We started stuff almost a year ago, and it's taken us about a year to get it get it perfected, but the stuff is medium hold. It's fantastic. It smells like the little fragrance of coconut and lavender. Just, it's relaxing, and you smell it, but it's not overbearing. So you don't smell like you've got copper tone coconut oil all over your body. And it really works, but it's great medium hold. And the container, there has been, where the container looks small, but it's, guys, that stuff lasts 3-4 months because you don't need to use a lot of it. Maybe a thumbnail is about all you need to use every day. And it's fantastic. And I can still roll my hands through it, and it still stays held after I roll my hands through it. So, and run my fingers through my hair. Beautiful, run my fingers through my hair. Does that sound sexy? But guys, try it out. And they also have other great products. But heck yeah, the Tano one, Tano pomade is the best pomade by far. In my opinion.
And they didn't mention a promo code to me, but then I went to your website actually, and you do have a promo code for the Tonto hair paste, which is going to save you a lot. You get $5 off with that. So you could use promo code Tonto20. That's outofregs.com with a Z. Outofregs, REGZ.com. Check them out. We're really excited to have them on board. And with that, we're going to get right into everything.
From Omaha, Nebraska to New York City, from planet Earth to extraterrestrial life in space, a podcast with no equal, engaged in unconventional warfare through your speakers and headphones. This is a show about embracing the suck, conquering your demons, and finding God in the face of adversity. Chris Tonto Peranto.
Switch is on, motherfucker, I'm gonna shoot you in the face.
Ian Scotto.
Ian and I have been dating for a long time.
You are now tuned into the Battleline podcast.
The switch is on. Battleline podcast. Very excited to have Greg Anderson coming on for the first time. But the unfortunate first thing I wanted to mention, and we didn't mention it last episode because I heard the news really after we recorded. We recorded that episode a few days in advance, was that John Bartolo has passed away. And he was a guest just recently. He was on episode 115, if you guys want to revisit that. And we were actually supposed to go on his show. He set up a date with me. We probably would have been going on this week, and unfortunately, that won't be happening. It'll never be happening. And the thing is, I was thinking about this morning, just reflecting on the show that we do, and why I love interviewing these guys is because even though neither of us knew John, personally or anything like that, the hour that we get out of guys when it's a solid interview, and it was a really solid interview with him. I think we went like an hour and a half. I learned a lot about the guy, and I don't know about you. The thing that always stuck out to me was just his humor. He was a funny guy.
Yeah, guys like that, they and you can tell they live hard, and they live by the seat of their pants and daily, and sometimes the light just burns out, and I've seen it happen with so many guys that I've worked with. And John, not he was a contractor military or anything, but sometimes it's just that personality that you live hard and you live fast, and that takes a toll on your body sometimes. And we don't know. Again, we're still figuring out.
I mean, to be fair, we have no idea what happened.
Just normal wear and tear on your body with living hard and fast, the stressors that it causes, and I can attest to that. Just living a normal hard life, live hard, work hard, play hard. It wears you out, but that also leads to a fulfilling life. So not on the negative side, it leads to a life where you can look back and you make it down the road to your 80 and look back and like, man, that was freaking awesome. I fucking lived a great life. And even though I had massive ups and downs, it was better than just living a flat line where I'm just living vanilla. I call it living vanilla. So just for having that hour, you can tell he lived that roller coaster ride. And he loved living that roller coaster ride. Just by that hour that we got to him, he enjoyed it. And that's how he wanted to live. And, God bless him and his soul into heaven, but also God bless his family. And he left a little one behind, which is sad. That is sad. And seen that happen before where, Tyrone left, for example, had just had a baby boy when he passed away. And, but I hope, I hope people tell his son good stories about his father, so he has good memories and know that his father did live his life how he wanted to live. And that says a lot right there. That just says a lot for character, is that he lived his life by his own path, and that's what he wanted to do. And that's a great thing, to have that intestinal fortitude to do that.
Yeah, I have a statement, by his good friend Tony Sentiman, and I don't know if it's saying his last name right. I'll read, but I just also want to reflect on the thing that I remember most from that interview. Beyond just like what he did in the firearms community and all that, the thing that made me laugh the most was, and you would know better than me, you know guns. What was the gun that he kept holding? The small pistol.
He had this small pistol where he kept making fun of how we were going to readjust the. Every shoot.
Yeah, what was the gun though? Do you remember?
I don't remember. I'd have to list
He kept pulling it out. That's the thing. That's why it would be great if we had video, because he kept pulling it out. And I'll pull a clip. I'll edit it into the show. But where he kept saying, yeah, like we moved to the 1/4-inch, game changer, and he kept doing it.
Chris, you've been around this game a long time. The AR-15 technology has not changed.
It's not changed an inch. Nothing.
You walk
at
around
all.
this industry and everybody's like, look at this rail. It's the latest. Chris, you have no idea this rail is going to take you home tonight and buy you dinner. And you're like, oh, fuck, great. I get it. They're engineers and that's their baby. We totally get it. Yeah. But at the same time, you have to understand, for me to market this as your baby and for me to make you king shit in the industry, I have to take this and I have to make it sexy to my audience and to everybody around me. And to do that, it's going to cost X. And they're like, whoa, wait, oh.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, what do you want to do here?
It truly made me laugh, because you could tell he had a passion for what he did, and he had like a low tolerance for bullshit.
Yeah, that's another thing, is as somebody that's like that, but still has the respect to. And he had an ultimate respect for veterans. He did. And that was that.
He did, but at the same time, he had no problem saying on the show, and I respected him for this, because of the fact that, like, I think someone would go on with you and be like, I have to fit this narrative of what people are going to like. And he had no problem saying, if you remember during that show, he was like, I kind of wish there were more civilians out there talking about the Second Amendment, because he was like, for you guys who are special operations, military veterans, like you guys are always carrying what you want in combat. That's the same for every country. He's like, that doesn't. He kept saying, he was like, that's not what the Second Amendment is about. He's like, we need more civilians out there talking about the Second Amendment.
The gun industry, and it's no disrespect, is not representative of the tip of the spear. If the Second Amendment went away tomorrow, Navy SEALs would still have guns. If the Second Amendment went away tomorrow, Marines would still have guns. Why nationally does Tucker Carlson and anybody else continue to say, we have a great spokesperson for the Second Amendment? It's, door gunner so-and-so. I'm not sure what that means. And I do get upset when I start to see representations like that, because we're a better and more of an industry, more robust industry than Hickok 45 taking shots down the range. There's more to it than that. And I think we don't do a good job capturing that story. A lot of these FFLs, as you know, Chris, they're family-owned businesses. They're struggling to get by. They're constantly getting guns pulled from their list, stuff taken away from them to sell, and they're getting eaten up by the online. But we need those FFLs. Without those FFLs, we can't transfer guns. And that's eventually what they want to come after, that and taxing the ammo, which the ammo debate is a whole nother thing.
And he had no problem saying that. He wasn't like, oh, I'm worried I'm going to offend Tom.
Well, I don't know why that would never offend me. I think more people, if it does offend somebody that's in the military community, you need to check your fucking ego out there, man, because there's nothing to offend there. The more people you have, whether they are law enforcement veteran, or whether they're military, whether they're former military veterans, of course. But the more people you have that understand the Second Amendment, understand the importance of it, and understand the true value of firearms, really. And there's a value to it. I've saved lives with firearms. I've seen lives taken with firearms. So I've seen both sides of the house. But there is a definite value to having them. And being an instructor, seeing somebody come out to learn how to shoot a gun and never shot before, and then seeing them leave the range with a massive amount of confidence just in themselves because they conquered a fear. That says right there for the value of the Second Amendment and firearms. And the more people that we have that back the Second Amendment, the less likely we are ever to have politicians tear it out of our Constitution. And that's important. So you have to have everybody. Civilians are the most important because there's so many more just civilians out there than there are veterans and law enforcement and so forth. There are, and that's who's gonna save the Second Amendment for years and years and years to come. Not the military, not the law enforcement, because we're going to carry regardless. That's our job.
Yeah,
somebody.
Yeah, and that was his point.
Yeah, that's the civilian world and civilians and their importance of backing the Second Amendment and learning how to safely and effectively and efficiently handle firearms is what's going to keep the Second Amendment alive and well for years and years to come. And yeah, that's why I admire that. I don't think John would think he would offend me, but if he thought he would and he said it anyway, well, kudos to John's spirit up there for doing that. Okay, but it would never.
Yeah, I think that was just him. I think I could tell he was a true, and I say it with affinity, like a masshole. he was a Boston guy, and he kind of told it how he is. He had that personality. And that's actually why I want to read the statement from at _tactical Tony Sentiment, his good friend, because I thought what he said could speak way more volumes than what you or I say, because this was a great friend of his. So he wrote, I honestly don't know what to write. I just lost my best friend and brother. I am broken inside, and I write this caption in tears as I've been since last night, still in disbelief. John Bartolo was the most blunt, abrasive human to walk the earth, but he was the most genuine, authentic, and giving friend you could ever have. And without John Bartolo, there would be no Real World Tactical. He left a 2-month-old baby boy by the name of TJ that will never know his father, only through videos and podcasts, and it breaks my heart. I always preach that tomorrow isn't guaranteed, that each day is a gift, and this tragedy really solidified it. I FaceTimed with John 15 minutes before he passed, so I was at least able to see him one last time. I heard what he would tell me every time we talked, almost every day for the last time. Call me later when you're done. I'll be around. I'm making this post so that his family and his son can read this and know that John was loved, respected, honored by many, and will leave a legacy that he built with the John Bartolo Show. That his son will know that the last name he carries is a name that many hold to the highest standard as a true leader and the hardest worker in the fucking room. I will see you soon, my brother. I will make sure your son will know who you are, and he will never be in need of anything in this fucking life as long as I'm alive. I love you. Rest in peace. So, I mean, that kind of says it all.
Yeah, bro. On my side of the house, too many times I've heard something like that written by a friend who's lost a best friend. I can count it all on both hands, multiply it by 3, and it's sad to keep hearing stuff like that. For me, I almost become desensitized to a lot of it. To be honest with you, I do. I was like, shit, I heard another one. Are you kidding me? But that being said, it's nice to have somebody out there that cares for another person like that, because they can pass on and I don't say legacy, just pass on the memory of that person who passed. And like I said, he can say it a lot more better. Is that a good English? A lot better.
You and I are both struggling with language.
I think I watched Zoolander this morning, guys. People that don't read too much, but people, people out there that can explain and express how that person that passed, explain their life and what their lives meant to them to help them become better as well. So, but it's hard. It is for a person like myself, and there are a lot of guys out there, a lot of men and women out there that have lost a lot of friends, and not just in combat, just every day, just stuff that just happens, and well, the past 2 years too. I don't know if you realize, like, we're celebrating. It's 2 years since the initial lockdowns, and in these past 2 years, we've lost a ton of people. Right.
I mean, I know a guy who's a listener of the show, who's a friend of mine, like, lost 2 family members to COVID. It's been a crazy 2 years for a lot of people.
Yeah, it's just that's life. That's how it is. So you live it to the fullest. But keep in mind, live it with virtue and live it with some morality too. When I say live it to the fullest, I remember when I was younger and somebody said that, it was, okay, go do everything. And no, that's not what I'm saying. But when you're young and you're dumb and you're full of cum, sort of thing, that's what you used to say all the time. You're going to live. You're going to live young, and you're going to live dumb, and you're going to learn. But that's how you learn. But you're always going to have this old hat guy like myself telling you, hey, be careful what you're doing, just like the old guys used to tell me that I never listened to, and I had to figure out for myself. But that's life. But it still is better than just sitting in your room scared. Don't do that. Get out there and experience everything. Then you know what you like and you know what you don't like. And then you can have that abrasive attitude down the line, because you have wisdom and you've been burned and you've also succeeded. So you know that, and you do. Like we always say in the military, and you've heard it with a lot of veterans, you don't know unless you know. Well, that's why we say you don't have a clue unless you've been through it. And if you haven't been through it, then don't say a word, because you don't know unless you know. That's the same thing. And I think with John's life, and this is purely skeptical. I don't know. I mean, we knew John from the show, but just talking to him, I think John experienced a lot of failure, but he also learned from those failures and experienced a lot of success. But that's where he gained his confidence and he gained his abrasiveness, you could say. But that abrasiveness is a form of confidence, because if you're not confident in yourself, you're not going to be able to say what you want to say unless you are massively insecure, which I don't think John was insecure by any reason at all.
No, I didn't get that impression.
But anyway, there's my soapbox thing right there. That's it. I'm dead. I'm done.
Yeah. Rest in peace to John Bartolo. And once again, if you guys want to listen back to that episode, that was 115, go back and revisit it and remember him. And I'll put this up
a lot of laughs.
on our YouTube
episode
as well.
We laughed a lot during that.
It was fun. Yeah, there was a lot of laughs. And there's a lot of genuine laughs. You know, there's certain episodes where you don't have it. He was a genuinely funny guy. He was. You know what I wanted to mention, actually, and we'll get into this. You know, as I said, it's like 2 years since the lockdown. And the reason this is embedded in my head was that 3/16/2020 was the last time I was in a gym for like that 2 or 3 month period where we couldn't be in gyms. And I remember like I gave it my all at that time, because I was like, I don't know the next time I'm going to be in a gym. And I think during those lockdowns, I totally fell off. And I felt like the residual effects of that for these past 2 years. It was also because I had to move out of my apartment. I had to figure out what I was doing next. And like, this is the first time I'm like in a place where I kind of like know where I am, and I'm getting back into it fully for the first time in a while. And it feels good. It always has a positive impact on my life. It's something that I was missing for sure. And the reason I mention this too is it all ties into, once again, exercise, diet, and supplementation. And that's why I did want to mention, of course, our friends at Bub's Naturals. And if you know anything about Bub, if you listen to the episode with Sean Lake, Bub was an adventure seeker, a river guide, skier, Ironman competitor, fitness fanatic, chef, gardener, handyman, epic storyteller, and of course, Bub was a national hero, a Navy SEAL who saved lives there at Benghazi. And that's why Sean started Bub's Naturals. It really is such a unique product because there's a ton of protein supplements on the market. But people often ask me, as someone who is a personal trainer, you know, like, what's the difference between eating food or taking a protein supplement? And for the most part, eating food is better because you're going to get all those micronutrients. But with a collagen protein supplement, you don't really get collagen in your food. This is an essential supplement that you should be taking in addition to whatever your diet is, and that's why we stand
because by it helps your joints, it helps recovery, it helps those tendons and things rebuild. It does. The joints, especially though, and as you get older, like myself, you need your joints and your tendons and everything that moves those muscles and hinges those muscles. You need them working well together. If you can have the biggest muscles in the world, but if your joints are crap, it doesn't make a difference. You're not going to want to run. You're not going to be able to move. You're not going to be able to do anything as far as working out, going to the gym, running, doing any sort of fitness types workouts. I keep saying workouts, but guys, Bub's Naturals is tremendous. It's the best collagen out there. I've been using it for years. I'm back to out there running every day. If I wanted to run every day, I could. Back there jumping on the trampoline, doing flips. My back doesn't hurt. My knees don't hurt. My ankles don't hurt. And this is after also doing a lot of years of service as well for the United States Army and then for the CIA, where I met Bub. So, guys, I highly recommend all their products. You got to try them. If you haven't tried them, do. And once you do, you're going to be hooked to them. So, guys, and if you don't believe us, go search their website, and you can always just hit up the comment section or hit up the ask question section on their website, and you'll get all the answers. Tremendous customer service over there too, which says a lot about their integrity.
Yeah, I can't stress enough the value of collagen. It's the most abundant protein in the human body. It is literally the glue that holds our bodies together. It's a blend of highly functional amino acids found in all the body's connective tissue. This is something all of you should be taking. So check it out, bubsnaturals.com. Use the promo code Battleline for 20% off. As I often say, you could find Bub's Naturals on the shelves of a lot of mainstream stores. However, you're going to get the best deal through us, and you're going to help out the show. So bubsnaturals.com, promo code Battleline. This show is also sponsored by our friends at BioPro Plus. Are you 35 or older? Do you currently feel like you're lacking that primal motivation, drive, and energy you used to have? Do you want more out of life and to improve your performance in the gym and in the bedroom? Well, here's the deal. Every year after puberty, your growth hormone decreases, sometimes by 50% by the age of 35, which is pretty scary. And it only keeps going downhill from there, unfortunately. So it doesn't matter how in shape you are or how good your diet is, it's happening to all of us. That's where BioPro Plus comes in. BioPro Plus is the first of its kind. It's 100% non-synthetic alternative to prescription HGH growth hormone treatments. It immediately replaces what your body is no longer getting. And it does it naturally. That's the big thing right here. Without the needles, no nasty side effects or expensive cost of the typical synthetic growth hormone treatment. So if you want to fix your performance in the bedroom, chronic fatigue and pain, or just how you look in the mirror, go to bioproteintech.com. We're going to talk a little bit more in depth about it with Greg Anderson, since Greg is also someone whose podcast is sponsored by Bioprotein Tech. So we'll talk about it a little bit more, but check them out, guys. That's bioproteintech.com. And listeners of the podcast are going to get $30 off by using the promo code Battleline at checkout. Once again, that's bioproteintech.com. You'll receive $30 off by using the promo code Battleline. And we're going to get into everything with Greg Anderson, and we'll be sure to get into a little bit of BioPro Plus. So with that, let's get right into everything. So joining us for the first time on Battleline podcast, Greg Anderson, veteran of 2nd Ranger Battalion, went on to become a contractor for Triple Canopy, and then former law enforcement officer, current Jiu-Jitsu Academy owner and instructor, and of course, the host of the Endless Endeavor podcast currently. Really excited to have you on, man. The thing that I was thinking, personally, and I thought this was interesting when I found your background and I saw your podcast and I was doing research. It's actually hard to find out about your initial background, because I was able to see Greg Anderson, special operations veteran, but I didn't know you were a Ranger until I texted you and it was like, what could we learn here? So it would be cool to actually, I think, start from the beginning. I think of what inspired you to become a Ranger, going into becoming a Ranger, that type of thing. And then from there, because the interesting thing is, I think from guys that we've interviewed on the show, the civilians like myself often think when you interview special ops veterans, they're going to say oh, I wanted to serve my country, as a patriot. And I feel like more of the special ops veterans we've interviewed, it's more no, I just wanted to push myself to be my best self. I wanted to challenge myself physically. So I'd love to hear what drove you to
tell the kid,
push your body and mind.
Tell the kids out there what the recruiters aren't telling them. Basically, that's what you need to tell them right now.
So no, I wish I had the cool story that since I was 11, I had this burning desire to serve. And man, the truth is, high school didn't go too well for me. I was drinking, chasing girls, fighting. I hated doing schoolwork. I got stuck doing summer school just to graduate. And I remember graduation was approaching. It was, mid senior year. And I knew I hated school. That was one thing that I knew. And I was like, well, what are my options? I go into the workforce. I could go to college and waste a bunch of my parents' money. And then I was like, you know what? The Army's actually sounding pretty good. And at the time, and I don't even know why, because I didn't know anything about Ranger Regiment or the SEAL teams, but I wanted to be a Ranger or a SEAL. And I was like, that's it. I'm going to be one of those two things. And I went and talked to the Navy recruiter, and I talked to the Army recruiter. And this is funny, but you hear this story often. The Navy recruiter was just kind of a dorky D-bag that was real pushy and and I was like, oh, and then the Army guy was super cool, man. We vibed and we got along, and I just dug that guy. And I was like, 17 years old at the time. I'm like, you know what? The Army guy's cool. The Navy guy's not. So I'm going to go Army. And it's like, and that's, you're taking a whole career path based on the personalities of two people that both have nothing to do with the path that you're about to go. But at the time I thought okay, well, this is what the Navy is like, and this is what the Army's like. And so I went in, I wanted a Ranger contract, and back then it was RIP before we moved to RASP. But like all recruiters, oh, I don't have any of those available.
Did you pull that shit once you get to airborne school? Or
oh, yeah. Yeah, once you get to airborne school, you can ask to attend RIP, and I believed him, and luckily it worked out. And like sometimes needs of the regiment is what dictates how many people go through. Yeah. And so I was slotted to go to the 82nd, and the whole time through basic and airborne, I wanted to talk to a RIP recruiter, and then at airborne school that actually happened, and it worked. And so I feel like I lucked out because I know a lot of guys. Oh yeah, that wasn't an option they were going through.
Oh yeah, and so unbelievable that you got. That's just you're like winning the lottery, bro. You got lucky as shit getting.
I know, right?
Wow.
And it was funny too. It was. Do you remember Sergeant Rackus?
Yeah.
By chance?
Yeah. Actually, I do.
Okay. He's who came down, and he goes, "All right, everybody that is going to attend Ranger Indoc program, fall out, form a formation behind," and we did. And then he was just like right face and took us on the death run of death runs right there on the spot. And I come to find out afterwards, I heard he was like one of the fastest guys in the regiment, and they purposely sent him down to do that because everybody fell out. And it's like, if you fall out on a run, you're a shitbag.
Yeah.
So day or minute one of your experience with the regiment, they're making every single last person fall out of the formation run. And then it was RIP after that. And you know how that goes. I actually got medically recycled in RIP. They said they came out for morning PT, and they're like, hey, if we call your name, fall out to the rear of the formation. They called like 3 of us. And me being Anderson, I was the first one. And I'm like, oh, anytime you're stringing out, you're like, oh no. They're like, you guys are all medical recycles. You can quit and go worldwide, or you can live in the barracks for the next 3 weeks and attend the next course. And it was because our physicals had expired.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And so, all right. Yeah, I mean, the process between, I was at 30th AG for like 6 weeks.
Dude, and that sucks. That's just because that's just time that there's demoralization time because you're waiting to go and you can't do it.
Yeah, we got down there and they're like, this was like the first hour in the Army, and they're like, listen up, guys. Your basic isn't scheduled to start for 6 weeks. They sent you guys down here a little early, so now you're with us. I was like, oh, man.
And for all you listeners out there that don't know the military, 30th AG, it's your in-processing station when you get to basic or get to your basic training duty station, I should call. And you are stuck there basically on a world. How many acres do you think it is? Maybe 5 acres, 10 acres, and you're stuck in this little facility. Basically, he's stuck in a little Groundhog Day for 6 weeks in a ton of concrete and asshole drill sergeants that aren't real drill sergeants at the moment. Well, I shouldn't say that. Some are. They're just taking a break. But dude, no, go ahead.
That the drill sergeants there are the ones that like they didn't want on the trail. Hey, we're going to send you guys to reception, But no, it was good. I mean, I like you said, a lot of special operations guys want to challenge themselves, and that's kind of what inspires them to take that path. And for whatever reason, I said, you know what? If I'm going to dedicate a certain amount of time to the Army, let's see what they have to offer. How hard can I push myself? What can I gain from how can I maximize what I can gain from this experience? And I don't know what makes a young 17, 18-year-old kid want to do that. But I'm so glad that I did. And I mean, the reality of the Army is if you go 82nd or 101st or any of the infantry units, like those are great units. They did a lot of cool stuff. And those guys got a lot of cool missions over the next, 20 years of war that we were headed into. But for me, the Ranger Regiment opened so many doors for me that I never knew would be opened. And as soon as people saw that on your resume after you got out, like that in itself was something that was like, oh man, luckily I went this path because it lets people know you're willing to push a little farther, a little harder, put a little more effort into things. And it didn't go unnoticed. And so, yeah, I did that. It was, check this out. 9/11 was my last day of Ranger school.
Oh, no shit.
So,
wow.
So that's like the ultimate of when they talk about 90s Rangers.
So you went to school. When did you go to school? When did you start? When was your first day of?
What would it have been? July or something like that?
Okay.
I went down right in the middle of summer. and I got stationed at Second Bat. So I grew up in the West Coast, and then I got stationed at Second Bat. So anything to get away from Georgia, and I was happy with that. But then going back to Ranger School in the summer,
that blows.
And it was it was class 0901, and I went straight through. I did very well in Ranger School, and unlike most Rangers, I hated it. Like when I look back on that experience, I'm not like, oh, Ranger School is fun. It's like, not really. If that's your idea,
what was your worst? There's a lot, but what was your worst or even your best memory of? And I like to hear them because honestly, it brings me back because I was just 7 months ahead of you. I just 0201. I graduated right before block leave of Christmas. So I was like, if you don't graduate Florida, then I had to stay for block leave. Like, holy fuck, I better pass my last patrol because I didn't want to stay and I want to go. But give me an experience and because I like to hear them, but a lot of our listeners like to hear them. Do you have anything you remember that just stands out from Ranger School?
I'll tell you a story. I'll tell you a story that stands out from RIP more than Ranger School.
Okay.
And I like to tell this story because it kind of it peels back the curtain a little bit of what type of people they're looking to bring into special operations. And I remember it was, what was it, January or February? We were out on Cole Range, and it's just pissing rain. And as you know, Cole Range is like a little piece of hell that the RIP cat
Lord
created this little like torture chamber in. And you're like hitting the wood line. And then they said, listen up. We had 4 squads. They said, each squad grab a log and hold that log over your head. And so we're all holding the log over our head, and it's cold and you're shaking. And they said, listen up, Rangers, this exercise does not conclude until we have 2 quitters. Yeah. And they said, just so we're clear, that means it can conclude in 3 minutes, 3 hours, or 3 days. Nobody sets a log down until 2 people quit, go. And it's like, whoa, like what is this really going to look like?
Yeah, fuck games, man. Like, unbelievable fuck games.
And then it was cold, and they built a fire, and they were grilling food, and they had coffee and beers. And they're like, and just so you guys know, if you decide that the regiment's not for you, if you decide that you want to quit and go worldwide, we respect that. Like that's a decision that only you can come to, and you can come over here. We'll give you blankets. You can have a warm cup of coffee, and like they were enticing people. And I remember thinking, man, are 2 people really going to quit? Is this really going to convince 2 people to quit? And then I remember the thought that I had, and this is exactly what they're looking for. I'm like, man, if I quit because this sucks, the weight of what I'm carrying on this log goes to all these other men. Like, as soon as you step out from underneath that log, you're buddy fucking those guys that are there with you. And I was like, I guess I'll have to die first, and that's exactly what they're looking for.
Yeah, exactly.
And
now I have to know, because I know Chris.
I already know the question you're going to ask. How long does it take for 2 people to quit? I get that all the time. And unfortunately, when you're under the log and you're just shaking and shivering, man, I just went into that zone. I went into that place inside of my head where I was kind of detaching myself from the physical world. And I don't know how long it was. I would guess maybe an hour or 2, but I don't.
Oh, I would have assumed it was long. I was thinking you were going to say like you watched the sun go down and
no.
You'd be surprised how quick people give up when and if you can't, I call it going to my happy place. I used to go to my happy place, which was
it
was seriously, but it was always Little House on the Prairie, Laura Ingalls running down the hill. That was my happy place. I would imagine the Midwest with the grass and that's where I would go. That's what I tell you. Just go to your happy place and just mind numb it out, block it all out.
I just want you to be happy, darling.
All right, Grandma. Grandma wants me to be happy.
Chin up, Happy. Don't feel bad about me. I
Got my hand back, see? We've only just begun to live.
It's literally like Happy Gilmore.
It was literally like Happy Gilmore, except Laura Ingalls didn't have a negligee, didn't have lingerie on with 2 beers. I wish she did, but it did. But no, because you're spot those things, and that's people don't get it. It's not the yelling and the screaming that get you. It's the little fuck games. It's the manipulation. It's the mind games that go on, and your mind can just screw your body over like that. And that's what I got most out of Cole Range was that, dude, just don't quit. Your body's going to it's going to die or it's not. As long as you just get your mind right, and then you just can tune out. Like you said, that's where I learned how to tune out was just, all right, just go fucking numb. Go to a happy place, and I'm not here anymore. And it worked. It's an amazing story, dude. I love it. It brought back a lot of memories. That's fucking in the fire. Oh, those fucking those RIP instructors. God damn, those guys were such assholes. just the.
No, right?
But they were supposed to be, and I would have been if I was a RIP instructor. I'd have been the same way. I'd have done the same fucking thing. So,
it's funny when you look back on those experiences at the time. The men that were leading those courses, or when you got to regiment and the guy that was your squad leader or your team leader, remember looking at them just like they were gods, right?
Yeah.
And the truth is they were 23,
Yeah. You got an E6 that's 25 years old, and he's a senior guy that, I remember, do you remember I don't know if you had it when you went through RIP. When I went through RIP, the second time I went through when I had that break in service, they would have guys come over from each battalion that would be like, I don't know, liaisons or whatever they would be. And we had a guy at Sansone that came over, Sergeant Sansone, and he was actually an import from 25th Light that came in, already had his tab, but he came in and it was kind of a weird thing seeing him come in, and I'm at RIP respecting the hell out of him. Then we go back to battalion and he's not, I was like, man, I think I was holding this guy in too high of a regard when I got back to the unit. It's like, geez, okay, now I got to learn how to not just inflict intimidation on myself just by overthinking this guy's the world. And that taught me a lot too from RIP going there and then going back and actually going with the Sergeant Rothke that was fucking the man in comparison to somebody else that I just thought was, but I hadn't really spent enough time with them. So I was mind fucking myself before I even should have. And that was something I learned a lot from RIP too. But yeah, keep going, bro. This is awesome. I love this. This is amazing.
So, when it got selected for 2nd Battalion, we got to put a little wish list together, and they actually worked with most guys.
Yeah, they did.
And it's the Army, so who knows how that was going to play out. Obviously, needs of the regiment dictate where you go. But I've heard stories where they're like, they'll swap people. Like, I want 3rd Bat, I want 2nd. Well, too bad, you guys are going here. We didn't see that in our class. If there was the openings that were available, they let the guys pretty much pick and choose.
I saw that too.
And ended up, doing. I don't remember what it was, but it was like a year as a private. It was a long time. And it was because we got a huge influx of privates at the time. Our squad was like, the squad leader, the 2 team leaders, and 10 privates.
Okay.
And, but it was cool though. It was a cool experience, because as privates, we all lived together. We're all coming up through the ranks together. And
which company were you? Which company were you at again, Greg? I can't remember. Which company were you at? You're at Alpha?
Yep.
Yeah, fucking single guy, the single young guy out of high school. Always going to that's where they all go. All the married guys go to Bravo, all the convicts go to Charlie, and all the single guys that are going to get in trouble and beat people up on the weekend because they're single and got nothing else to lose. They all go to Alpha Company.
That's right.
That's it.
I remember it was First Sergeant Walker. He used to say, like, listen up, guys. He's like, listen up. If you guys go out drinking and getting in fights tonight, the only requirement is that you win and that you E&E quickly. Right? Like, he goes, if you come back here beat up and you lost a fight, that's when you're really going to get it. And I was like, oh man, I'm on my home, man. This is the top rank NCO in the company, and he's telling us to go out there and beat people up. But even him at the time, who's like this god amongst men. How old was he? Probably 30.
Yeah, probably I was going to say mid 30s, maybe 37, 38 years old. And this guy, and he's the head guy. It's amazing. You look back now, and it makes me feel old as dirt. But you're like, God dang!
I used to look at him like, man, he's this old, crusty first sergeant that's like been around the block, and it's like, Now he's 35.
I
He's a kid
know.
still.
That's so fucking funny.
But yeah, so check this out. We're at Eglin Air Force Base, and it was Ranger School's over. We all got our goes. We didn't turn our gear in. You do that back at Benning, but we like did all the out briefing, and we got to sit there and eat all the food. Remember, like when they open up, I forget what that little Gator cafe
well,
is or whatever.
Did it burn? Because somebody said it burnt, and they built it again. The Gator bar was still there. The Gator, it was the Gator bar, Gator Cafe. And somebody said that it had burnt down. I don't know if it burnt down when you had gone before you'd gotten there, but yeah, I remember sitting out and just gorging myself. Oh yeah,
yeah,
fuck yeah.
And so then the next morning, we're actually rigging up into our parachutes, and they said because you jump back into and then that's a wrap. And cadre came out and they said, "Hey, everybody, de-rig, put your chutes in a pile over here. Come into the auditorium. We have something to talk about." And we're all like, what's going on? They're like, "Hey, Bush grounded all planes. Your jump is canceled. Here's why." And they turned on the TV, and it's like, oh shit, we're going to war. Like everybody knew at that moment. And it was funny because the guys in regiment, the guys that are in regiment that are in school with you, you form like a little circle, know? And I remember one of the guys was like, "Oh, we're going to war, man. We're going to war." And one of the RIs is like, "Shut up. You guys aren't going anywhere. This will be over before you know it." And it was funny looking back on that. It's like, oh, because he knew he wasn't going anywhere.
Yeah, he's staying right there at school.
Like, oh yeah. Yeah, you're staying right here. We actually are going to war. So check this out. I don't know if you remember what happened initially. Alpha Company was already slotted to do a training exercise in Amman, Jordan. And so we deployed to Jordan almost right after 9/11. And we were there during the invasion when 3rd Bat jumped into Rhino. And since we were so close initially, they were going to have Alpha Company be an attachment to the jump. And so, dude, it was October 19th, 2001. And they were saying we were going to get to invade Afghanistan with 3rd Battalion. And it's like, dude, that's a mustard stain. And all the guys that served in Panama or Grenada, they're like gods,
Because you got your little.
I was like, dude, here we are.
Got your stain, man.
And here's the crazy thing, dude. October 19th, 2001 was my 21st birthday. Oh. And I'm like, all right.
So you get to jump in.
I'm invading Afghanistan. Yeah, I'm invading Afghanistan, my 21st birthday. And then literally like right before, shortly before it was green light, First Sergeant Kennedy comes out and he's like, "Everybody form up. They've decided to cancel the 2nd Battalion attachment. We're no longer part of the mission." And he started kicking chairs around and throwing and shit. Like he lost his mind.
Well, Kennedy was a pretty cool dude. I liked him, even though he wasn't in my. Everybody knew Kennedy. Kennedy was a pretty. Yeah. He was a Ranger dude. I mean, he was fucking crazy.
I got some crazy. Yeah, he's crazy for sure. But no, he was a good first sergeant. You got to be kind of crazy to be a company first sergeant. But so we ended up just sitting there on the airfield and listening to 3rd Battalion invade Afghanistan. And I remember it was, it was almost a dry hole. They killed one dude. Yeah. I think every single Ranger by him shot that dude.
that's what I heard. It's like, gee, that's everybody got. Because was it the airfield that was that the airfield they jumped into when they jumped? It was, and there was nothing there. Like I said, they're dry
hole. Little airfield.
Yeah. That's right.
And then they convoyed. Yep. The Marines landed and then they convoyed up to Kandahar.
Yep.
But dude, here's a funny thing. Like I had one of my buddies over probably 2 or 3 months ago who was a unit guy for a long time. And we met in the contracting world. And we were talking about this and he goes, "Oh, you were slotted to jump on Rhino?" Yeah, when 3rd Battalion was jumping, me and my guys were ripping up and down the airfield on 4-wheeler. We'd been there for a few days already. And I was like, oh, okay.
So those guys,
it wasn't.
Why did they cancel you guys? I didn't. Yeah. Nobody ever said why. Was there a reason they just didn't need it because it was a dry hole and the command knew it?
They said it was a battalion-sized objective. And they didn't need the attachments.
What and was 3rd Bat? Were they?
And obviously,
were they RF? Were they the RF1 guy? Okay, I just figured because 3rd Bat, it didn't make a difference if it was first or second, was RF1 or not. 3rd Bat always got to jump first because they were always by HQ.
Yeah, exactly. They're rifle. So
yeah, fuck it.
But and then we ended up doing a few rotations to Afghanistan, and it kept just being like, like I remember Randy Pazzer. Do you know him by chance?
I know of the name. We've never met. We never met, buddy. Never did.
Okay, so he was my Ranger buddy all through Ranger school.
Okay.
And that's how I knew him. And then he got deployed with 1st Battalion a few months later and was involved in Operation Anaconda.
Oh, wow.
He was a 240 gunner. There's that pretty like iconic picture of a 240 with a pile of brass.
Yeah.
It's like 3 feet high.
That was his 240. Him? Holy shit. That was, wow.
And so like, I'm hearing these stories from these guys that I know that are just like, dude, it's getting crazy over there. So then when we deployed, I was like, okay, this is it. This is go time. And our first deployment, we ended up being QRF out of Kandahar. And it was just like, we had a couple missions that were like, downed aircrafts and some fucked up things, but it was never warfare. It was just, mechanical air or the pilot, like a pilot flew his 60 into the dirt, like a fucking dirt dart, just because he didn't pull up in time.
Yeah.
And it's like, fuck, man, these are like tragic things and we're doing good missions, but we're not facing the enemy.
You're not doing what you thought was war was war. Yeah, this is what I'm thinking.
Like, when are we going to start killing fucking bad guys? Redeploy home, do a second rotation over there. And we did 6 months the second time because the rest of the regiment invaded Iraq.
Oh,
and so I was like, damn it, I missed 2 invasions now. And our deployment, we were way up north of Asadabad in the Hindu Kush. We're actually out of Barry Cout. I don't know if you ever worked out of that safe house. But the same thing, 6 months, and I didn't even fire my rifle.
Wow.
It was like, we had a couple IEDs and a couple mortars, and then that was about it. And I started thinking like, dude, this combat stuff is like, it's easy. Like no one's ever doing that. So then that was right when the contracting world popped off. And I ended up getting a call from a friend that knew Matt Mann.
Okay.
I'm sure you know. Yeah, okay. And gave me the whole triple canopy story. And he's like, dude, you can go from making $2,000 a month as an E5 to damn near $30,000 a month. And it was a no-brainer. I was like, oh, Roger this,
I remember that too. So, that was big money, dude. Oh my Lord.
And do you remember, you were with Triple Canopy?
I went through BW. Point, right? I was first class at BW. So I had actually jumped. I got a call from Blackwater first, Triple Canopy second, and I didn't know what I'll be honest with you, at the time, it was 2003. I had no fucking clue what was. So I said, well, who called me first? Fine, I'll go this route. But I remember thinking to myself when they talked to me, when they told me how much they were going to pay me per day, I was like, you're going to pay me what per day? Did I hear that right? Because it was crazy money. But we actually, because there were so few of us DynCorp and Triple Canopy, we all watched out for each other because there wasn't enough guys. We didn't have enough guns. We were trying to help each other out. And I do remember going to your bar, just going to the SF Association meeting. They still had those in the beginning. I had to go over and hang out with you guys over at Camp Olympia. All the Rangers and SF guys would come over, and then we'd go back to the annex or Saddam's Palace, whatever the fuck you want to call it, the KBR trailers and the tents. Yeah. But yeah, I remember that as well. It was just, there wasn't a lot of us, but it was crazy. It was crazy fun time, a lot of money, ton of money. Wow. Yeah,
we ended up Triple Canopy actually ran like a mini selection. And it was a lot of shooting.
That's what I heard.
Yeah, a lot of shooting and a lot of PT. And it was interesting because we were, the young Rangers there were kind of like bottom of the totem pole. It was a bunch of career like unit guys and DevGru guys and Force Recon Marines. And so I learned though, it's like, dude, Rangers are very good at 2 things. And that's shooting and fighting. But you know what else we're good at? It's just keeping our fucking mouth.
Oh, shit.
Because like the regiment still has like a high amount of military discipline.
Oh yeah.
And I saw dudes get kicked out of selection, like Green Berets, because they're like,
they just
arguing with cadre about things, about tactics. Well, I actually think that, instead of crisscross versus button hook or whatever it is, right? And I'm like, you guys, like, you can argue tactics all day, but this is a cadre person that's teaching you something.
Yeah.
that's obviously going to be interpreted a certain way, you know? And the young Rangers ended up doing very well because we shot well, we PT'd, and we could keep our eyes open and our mouths shut. And I remember Triple Canopy ended up picking up a lot of dudes, a lot of young men out of regiment. And then this is where I got a real introduction to warfare because I was sent to Ramadi.
Oh yeah,
this was 04.
04. Yeah, that was real busy. I lost one of my buddies there. It was one of the first contracts got sniped in the head. Oh man,
yep.
Yeah, that was rough, dude. That was a rough time in Ramadi.
So check this out. That was he was sitting in the government center, in the little tower out front. I've sat there 1,000 times. Like Triple Canopy was awarded that contract first, and Bama was his name.
Bama.
He didn't get killed. He didn't get killed until Blackwater took that contract over. Probably like a year later.
It was 05.
05?
Yep.
And I remember like, okay, we're in the hornet's nest now. And I mean, we got attacked in Ramadi on average 40 times a month. So, and that includes both like indirect or IEDs or sniper fire, but it was once a day or more you could count on something. And it was like, oh, okay. Every day you go outside of the wire, somebody is going to try and kill you.
And because it was so small, I mean, you really couldn't divvy up the routes. It was in comparison to Baghdad or anything, it wasn't a big, huge place. And if you're going to government center every day, I mean, you're being time and place predictable. Basically, you're violating everything is security that you're not supposed to be violating every day. You guys didn't have a chance. Really didn't. You didn't have.
And with the two rivers there's only so many ways in and out of the city.
Yep.
Period. Like they know at some point you're going to either cross this bridge or that bridge. You know, you can try and change your route up as much as you want, but there were some massive choke points in Ramadi, and they used that to their advantage. And we got ambushed hard. We got the shit shot out of us. And it was a very interesting experience because it taught me as a young man, and I talk about this often on my show, I came to the conclusion that it's like, okay, this is a numbers game, and it's only a matter of time before one of these IEDs or one of these indirect mortars lands on top of my head, and then that's a wrap. And I remember a lot of people were living, like a lot of the Marines that were deployed with us and living on Camp Blue Diamond. That's a little outpost we lived on. Man, when we'd be getting attacked, people would be getting terrorized and like screaming and running for bunkers and panicking. And I remember my team, I don't know if you know Brad DeLauder by chance.
Yeah, I do.
He was my team leader at the time.
Okay.
Highway was his call sign. And man, that dude was just stoic and calm. And I remember he's like, man, look at all these people panicking. He goes, everybody panics and they run to a bunker. And he goes, and look, what is that bunker? That's a mass formation. Like, that's not what we do during indirect. He's like, I don't understand why these people are doing this. And I remember looking at Highway and it's like, dude, there's bombs going off and his blood pressure isn't even raised.
Yeah.
Like he's speaking to me how we're talking right now. And it was like, okay, like this is all just how you interpret the battlefield and how you react. That's all on you.
Yeah.
You can run around and be scared and let it affect you emotionally, or you can just be stoic and be calculated and dissect it like a problem. And I remember taking a lot away from him. And because at the time, 23-year-old Ranger, and then this guy was a Force Recon Marine first sergeant. The amount of experience we had, the difference between us was vast. And by the end of that deployment, I don't think I had the emotion of fear anymore. It was like, no matter how bad things got, we were just like, let's go, bring it on,
It's just, it's acceptance. A lot of it's acceptance, but it's not acceptance that I'm going to die. And that's what I think people confuse that. It's like, I'm just accepting that I'm done. No, I'm not accepting that at all. I'm just accepting this is how life is. This is what it is. All right.
This is what.
All right. Let's get in. All right. If it means I got to get into it today, let's fucking get into it. If it means I don't, okay. If it means there's bombs going off, all right, I'm going to put my earplugs in. I'm still going to go take a nap because, all right, it is what it is. That's the difference. Talking to a Triple Canopy, because you guys had Lee Van Arsdale running Triple TC at the time, and Lee's a legend, dude. That dude's a fucking man. That's funny when you talk about the training, because on our side we had the same thing, but we had a bunch of SEALs running it, so it turned into fights. I mean, I remember sitting back and watching guys fight the cadre because they were arguing. And you're right. A lot of the young Rangers, we would just sit back and just let it happen. Like, all right, whatever you guys want to do, whenever you're done, can we get back to training? But it was fucking amazing because I heard that the difference with triple canopy and Blackwater when the initial training came up, that yours was more regimented, which I would figured it would have been because it's Army. Mm-hmm. You're dealing with Delta. You're dealing with a lot of guys that were Rangers or had been Rangers at high levels. And coming to Blackwater, it's a bunch of SEALs running thing. So we got mass chaos on one side with no control, and you've got to control the shocker SEALs, fucking Delta. But I still have to admit that I did enjoy, and I got a lot out of the training, but it wasn't for the Rangers. Honestly, the Blackwater training it wasn't hard at all. It was fun. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the craziness going on. I enjoyed how much we're getting paid. Once we got overseas, though, you're right, because I got a lot of time to get with the older guys and watch them. And also, I was older at the time, too. I had actually become a commissioned officer like a dumbass. I shouldn't have. So I had some seniority on me, but watching guys like Highway or at Blackwater, we had some senior guys over there, like from Dev Group, a guy named Sachs. I could watch and just watch their demeanor and just how they were you're right. It's amazing. Calmness and confidence can lead and breed more calmness and confidence, just like chaos can breed and lead more chaos. It is. You're spot on, man. And you guys were rough. Ramadi was rough. I was in Baghdad most of my time there. And it was rough at days, depending on the areas you went, whether you went to Solder City or Haifa Street, or if you went out on Route 10, like going to your guys' place and heading out. But Ramadi was rough, dude. I remember those days that the guys that were going to Ramadi that weren't ready for it. They would come back and be like, fuck this, dude. But you guys had your hands full, and I admired you guys for that. You guys did a lot of great things out there. So that was the fucking hornet's nest right out there. Definitely was.
And dude, one of the, I always like to mention this because one of the unsung heroes of Ramadi was Keith Kidd. And I don't know if you've ever worked for.
No,
Keith
I never.
He ended up becoming the ambassador. But at the time, he was just his task was Anbar Province. And like a lot of principals or the person that you're protecting as a security detail, a lot of times those guys start to think like they get to have some say in tactics or what time we're going to go where or how we get there or who we meet up with. And this guy called like a team meeting, and he was like this skinny little nerdy lawyer. His arms looked like spaghetti noodles. And he sat us all down, and he goes, and it was funny too. He goes, man, look at all you guys. Everybody around the fire looks like a superhero. He goes, like, you're all jacked and big and strong. And he goes, and then there's me. And he goes, but I want you guys to be clear about something. You guys got hired to protect me because this is your specialty. This is what you guys do. He goes, I'm a lawyer. I don't have any idea what's going on outside of these wires. And he goes, so I want you guys to understand, anytime you tell me anything,
that's cool, I
will 100% follow your orders. He goes, if you walk in during the middle of a meeting with the governor and you say, meeting's canceled, let's go. He goes, I'm getting up and we're leaving. He goes, I will never question you guys. He goes, I respect the fact that your job is to keep me alive, and I want to facilitate that the best manner that I can.
That's awesome.
And it's like, oh, okay. So now we got a good team of men, but the mission is built around a guy that gets it.
And that's few. You're right. There's few and far in between. There's not a lot of those out there at all. And
that's why that team, like there's always moments in your life when it feels like everything was meshing perfectly. And Team Ramadi, for that year, we didn't lose anyone. We had very minimal injuries. Like there was just like cuts and bumps and bruises and stuff from like indirect or whatever. But it was it was like it almost felt like we were invincible because we were getting ambushed all the time. We were getting our asses shot off. But every time we'd get back to base, everybody did the right thing. Everybody, they returned fire. The CAT team did the right thing. And every time it worked out. And it's like, man, there's something fucking magic to this team. And to this day, like I'm not one of those guys that like everything I wear is Ranger. I live in the past because I like to look at my life and the phases that they're in and prioritize who I am today. But I will always look back on the year and a half in Ramadi as like, a very formidable experience.
I
it
think
really helped me grow.
That's awesome.
I think that was for a lot of guys coming in at that time because it was brand new for all of us, and we didn't know what the hell we were doing. We got hit with rolling down streets. We don't know what we're doing. What's just a grenade under your car that you don't even think about. And that happened on Haifa Street. We're just coming right outside Little Assassin's Gate. Like, oh, we're almost home. Somebody rolls a fucking not Zakari. Who was the other? Well, Sauter's guys. Or no, it was Zakari on Haifa Street. Somebody just throws under from the militia, throws under our car. I mean, you're like, okay, I really didn't think about that. What the fuck? All right, get your head in the fucking game here, dumbass. What? Yeah, but it was a lot of. I think a lot of us had our best teams those early years because we were all learning together, and the learning curve was so fucking quick. And you were seeing, especially in Ramadi or Anbar province, if you went to Fallujah at all, or just even get out on Route 10 and heading out past on Route 10. Or getting even like I always say, the Wild Street was always wild craziness, but you had to learn quick and you had to become a team quick just so everybody would get home. But it did make it for a special moment because everybody was learning together and you were learning life or death. And I hate to be dramatic like that, but essentially that's what it was. But then everybody accepted it. So it was like, fuck it. All right, well, let's go have fun. Turn on the Slipknot. Let's fucking start rocking out. Let's go. Yeah.
And it was one of the best things that I took away from that experience, because growing up in the regiment, like, yes, I had a lot of respect for my leaders, but just the dynamics of how the Army works, like we would not get to know our leaders per se, right? Like you're not going to go out and hang out with them because it was fraternization. Like you're literally not supposed to get to know those people too well. And there was always like an amount of separation between like, the E5s and the E6s, or the E6 and the E7, but that's by design too. And I realized that is because the Army needs to have structure in place when there are certain men that may not have the discipline to not have that structure underneath them. Because once you're in the contracting world, I mean, like my project manager at Kurt Utz, I don't know if you've ever crossed paths with him.
Yeah, I have.
He was a unit sergeant major. Like that dude was the pinnacle of special operations. And I got there and he's like, "Hey, what's up, man? I'm Kurt. Everyone calls me Pigpen. I'm going to put you up in this hooch over here."
Did you lock
and
up?
Him and I
did you go to parade arrest right off the bat, though? Did you lock up? It's like, fucking it.
But check this out. Fast forward 3 months, and me and Kurt are rotating out for a 3-week vacation or something together. And he's like, "Hey, Greg, this is what I'm doing over the next 15 days. I'm gonna take a flight up to Prague. I'm gonna party at the Czech Republic for New Year's, and then I'm gonna take a train." And then another guy, Lee Deckelman, who you probably know, Sonny.
Yeah.
So he was there too. And he's like, "Dude, that's what you're doing?" And Lee was the AIC. Pigpen was the overall project manager. And I was the brand new guy, bottom of the totem pole. And the three of us went on like a 3-week vacation and toured Europe together. And it's like, you can actually have intimate, close bonds with the people that are inside of your chain of command. If you have the maturity, once it's go time and we're back to work and they say, "Hey, I need you to be here and I need you to do this," roger that, got it. And it's like, oh, this military courtesy where I have to pretend you're a superior person. It's like, no, if we all are on the same mission and the same vibe and we all understand each other, you can actually have very, very close relationships with the people that are in leadership positions. And I'm actually going to a wedding in 2 weeks from one of the team leaders from Triple Canopy, who was a unit guy. And it's like, to this day, I'm still friends with these people. And it was almost like, it was almost a breath of fresh air because I got to see a different style of leadership where it was not based on ego. It was not based on aggression. No one ever raised their voice at each other. It's like, hey, if you want to be part of this team, awesome. And if you don't, that's awesome too. We'll help you pack your bags. And
that's cool.
Yeah, man. I
was just going to say
that ran things because that was a unit mentality,
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, going back to something that you said earlier, just before that, where you were saying, that it was a great time in your life, but you're not someone who likes to live in the past. You're someone who likes to focus on the present. I mean, right now, you're doing a lot of amazing things with jiu-jitsu, with the podcast. And the thing with podcasts, I mean, as you know, it's become such a saturated thing where everybody has a podcast. But when you look at what you're currently doing, this thing is actually really blown up. Endless Endeavor. If you look at the reviews that people are giving, how did it all come off the ground? And also, it seems like it's something that you're truly enjoying. I think for some people, just like they start a podcast, they don't have any direction with it. You're actually doing something that's unique.
So this is actually funny because every podcast that I do, I usually get asked about the catalyst that brought me to the podcast platform. And I don't even know if you guys know my story of what happened to me.
Well, I know from what you were texting me, right? It was the video. The video is you.
No, because
right?
I remember when it happened, and I don't get on social media a lot, but I saw it and I was like, second back, and I had just gotten out of all the shit that I'd gone through with the media and all that. I mean, I'd stepped away from it because it was so. I saw how ridiculous it was, to be honest with you. And I remember I hit you up a little. It was me. That wasn't somebody else. I was like, dude, if you need to talk, and I didn't want you to I didn't expect you to get back to me or anything. It's like, hey, from somebody who's gone through the last 4 years of this shit where they're gonna want you to be their fucking golden boy. Hey, fucking Republicans. Yeah. I was like, hey,
bro,
hit me up and see. And that's why, like, I'm here. Don't get back to me. I don't need anything from you. I just want you to know if you want to bounce some some ears off something, or just I'm here. And that I did that because I was more or less just like, fuck it, dude. Greg's going to be getting hit by Hannity and Tucker Carlson and Jake Tapper, and they're just going to want to suck you fucking dry. And I was like, I just want.
Which, by the way, it's like can be okay if you are able to like stay on target and
I was.
I mean, because there's guys like Jack Carr who we see on the media all the time, and I think Jack Carr, like, he doesn't really get that political. He talks about what he wants to talk about. And but anyway, getting back to how you experienced
definitely.
Well, so I'll paint the picture a little bit. I ended up doing military contracts from 2004 to 2009.
Okay.
And 2009, I was deployed. I don't even know if you can consider it a deployment because I was in Erbil. And it was
fun, dude. You get to go to the ice skating rink up the mall and like go get some pizza, driving go-karts. It's a great time, dude. Come on, man.
But my wife texted me a picture over email, and it was a positive pregnancy test. And she said, hey, I think it's time we start looking at something a little different because I can't have you gone 6 to 9 months out of the year and raise a family. And to tell you the truth, I thought I would be a contractor for the rest of my life, But then I thought about it, I was like, hey, you made a choice to get married, and now this woman's having your child, and she's right. Like I shouldn't try and be a dad from the other side of the world. That doesn't make sense. And a lot of guys did it, and I respect them for it, but I don't know how they did it, man. That's tough. That's tough.
There's some regret now here for my older kids because I didn't get that time. I don't have any regrets from overseas. Nothing. Like, I wish I would have done this, or wish would have been in this, wish would have done more of this. It's damn, I wish I would have been home more for Halloween. Gosh, damn, I wish I would have been home more for birthdays. Dude, that's admirable. I respect the hell out of you for that, because there's a lot of guys that can't think that way or have to learn the hard way like I did, come back home, and now I get to do it with my 6-year-old. But I had to learn the hard way.
And it was tough, too. Because going into law enforcement back then, it was 2009, she got pregnant. And then I came home and I went to school and used the GI Bill, and we lived on that for a little bit. And then in 2011, I went into law enforcement. But we were making like $50,000 a year. Like you're below the poverty line.
Yeah. And,
here's the thing about law enforcement. It's a natural progression for a lot of soldiers, because you're like, okay, I had camaraderie, and I'm around cool guys, and we do tactics, and we have guns. And I thought that I would have somewhat of a similar experience. And I'm not saying this necessarily in like a pejorative manner, because I know there's a lot of cops out there that do like their job and it's important and it's special to them. But for me, I never found what I was looking for inside of law enforcement. That was not my scene. That was not my vibe. And that was in the mission to me, just never felt like super noble or honorable. It felt like, man, I'm just it's like Groundhog's Day. I'm dealing with shitty people doing shitty things. And so I'll tell you, like every once in a while as a police officer, like I remember I revived a guy and broke all his ribs and brought him back to life. And then a couple weeks later, he came back down with his kids to thank me. And it's like, oh man, that's why I'm a cop right there, you know? And it's like, or like catching and arresting a man taking pictures of little boys trying to use the bathroom. It's like, yes, fuck that guy. Got him. Every once in a while, what you do feels like it's making a difference in your community. But more often than not, for me, the profession just sucks your soul dry and you start to just become like old and jaded and your body feels broke down all the time because you're doing 12-hour shifts in kit. And it's like, that was cool when we were 23, but I'm 41. You know what I'm saying? It's a different thing. And so I wasn't in love with the profession anyways. I worked for pretty good people and I enjoyed the people that I would spend my shift with, but the job itself, there was something missing in me. And then the coronavirus stuff popped off. And immediately as a police officer, like immediately out of the gates, I saw like that dude getting arrested for going surfing. And I'm like, the government has lost their mind. Like we don't own, I'm a police officer. I don't own the ocean. I can't tell you can't surf just because Gavin Newsom tells you can't surf. Like it wasn't making sense. And you want to talk about like state of emergency or martial law. And it's like, those are very, very like slippery slopes. And you start saying, oh, you can't do this, you can't do that, you can't do this, you can't do that. Immediately something felt off to me. But I didn't want to base it on like, you know, science or politics because the pandemic was so new, nobody really knew what was going on. I just knew something felt off. And I was watching cops go in, and this is kind of what pushed me over the edge. There was cops that started doing undercover operations to bust businesses that were still open. And I'm like, listen, if this is so dangerous that we as police officers need to deprive people of their constitutional rights, but you're doing that by setting up operations and going into their place of business, to bust them, like, no. If it's Ebola and you catch this and you die, like
on the spot,
that's the level of importance that they seem like they're putting on this. But if you're actually going to walk into the business and arrest them and then take that person and put them in a county jail with 100 other people, like this is counterproductive to what we are trying to do here. So I remember every single cop, not most cops, not 99%. I've yet to meet the cop that saw what was happening and said, yeah, this is a good idea. We should be arresting people for going to the park. We should be arresting people for keeping their businesses open. No cop liked the direction that they were taking our profession, but no one would say anything.
And is that just because just livelihood? I mean, that's what I admired you about is it's like bandit.
100%. Everybody is a slave. I always say, like, man, the American culture replaced the whip with the dollar. Like a lot of Americans are still enslaved right now because if you're doing something that goes against your morals or your ethics simply because you're getting paid, you are a slave. Yeah. And I don't care how, I mean, you need to draw a hard line and you're on one side of that line or the other. And if they're pushing you to behave or enforce laws that you in your heart don't feel are moral or ethical, you need to stand up as a police officer. And so my fear was that we were going to turn the American public against the profession because the relationship between the American people and the profession of law enforcement, there's an ebb and flow to it. Sometimes cops are heroes and then sometimes cops are racist demons and it goes back and forth. But I felt like we had been on a pretty good trajectory for a while. And I was like, man, if they use us to enforce all this stuff, it's going to make the American people hate the profession. And that's what inspired me to make that video. And if you listen to the video, I didn't get political. I didn't even touch about on the virus much because I understood I have my opinions, but I'm not a doctor. I'm a cop. And so anything that I say, people aren't going to give validity to. So I didn't want to make the message about that. I wanted to make the message about our oath as police officers is sworn to uphold your citizens' constitutional rights and their liberties that are supposed to be protected by the government. And when you go into somebody's place of business and you take them out of there. That's like, and I went down the list of what's a Fourth Amendment violation, what's a First Amendment violation, and man, it resonated with people, and that video went like super viral.
Yeah, no,
super.
But you're right. A lot of people were feeling that, man. You hit the nail on the head when you did it. It was very eloquent for a ranger, and you actually used syllables like words with 4 syllables and 5 syllables. It was impressive, extremely impressive.
And here's the weird thing about that. This is a big learning experience for me because I own a gym, so my information's public. You can Google my gym, and my phone number that is attached to the gym is this phone right here. And so I never had a reason to have a work phone and a personal phone. And so, man, that phone started ringing literally 24/7 for like a month. And it was bizarre because 99% of people that contacted me, it would be like, "Are you the cop from the video? Is this really a phone?" Like, yeah. What's up, man? "Oh, dude, I just wanted to say that was awesome. Later, dude." Click. And it was a bunch of weird interactions. And then every once in a while, it'd be like, "Hey, motherfucker, your stupid ass video is going to get people killed because now they're not taking the coronavirus as serious as they should. I hope you fucking die." Click. And it's like, man, that was bothering me. And it was like, dude, 99% of people were supportive, but 1% of people were sending fucked up things. And that hurt. Like, dude, like someone sent my wife a message saying they're going to kill my kids. And it's like, dude,
yeah,
I don't know what it is inside of us, but instead of focusing on the good, I found myself focusing on the negative. And it's like, I would allow these little bits of hate coming in to affect me or get me upset. Or just like you mentioned earlier, like the media, every single media outlet wanted to have me on their story. And I ended up doing Laura Ingraham. I ended up doing her show. And she didn't paint me in a bad light or manipulate my words, but just the way that I was able to convey my points. I mean, you and I have been talking for 55 minutes. Yep. This is a conversation, right?
Exactly. That's why I love what we do.
Yeah, on Fox News, it's like, all right, we're going to be back in 3, 2, 1. All right, we're live. I'm here with the Seattle police officer, Greg Anderson. Greg, do you think that the government is a tyrannical government right now?
Sure.
Yes. And it was like, all right, going back to break. And I remember thinking, man, this lady may be in my side, like politically or whatever it may be. Like she may be supportive of what I did, but I'm still not getting to convey anything about me or beliefs and I was like, these media outlets are no longer for me. I don't enjoy this at all.
It's truly why I like doing podcasts. And actually in the intro with Chris, we were talking about that, how you do these small hits. You don't really get to know the person. And pretty much everybody I've interviewed, I've really gotten to know. Like, I feel like I know you, even though we've never met. We've had a lot to say in this past hour. The only thing I was going to say, I know, Chris, you have like a hard.
Yeah, I got a contractor coming over, and it's taken me forever to get him. But no, I still talking with. That's why I hit you up, bro. That's because I remember the first interview I did was Bill O'Reilly. I got to say 5 fucking words.
Who's? I'm going to say it. This is coming from me. Who's a fucking?
I got to say 5 fucking. But that's what I was like. Hey, dude, I'm here if you need it. But you really had to go do it for yourself to figure out how it was. But I just wanted to know you had an ear that if you had a question, I got it. I understood. I really felt like I understood, and I understood. We got lucky. When we left, we lost our job. When they told us behind closed doors, hey, if you go say anything, you guys losing your clearances, you're done. So it's like, that's why I admired your livelihood, because there's a lot of guys that don't. They use that as their excuse. Well, I'm going to lose my job. Well, so fucking what? Say something. Okay. No, I'm going to lose my. Yeah. Now ours went, but we didn't know it was going to go that route. In fact, we were still thinking we were going to go to prison for 10 years for violating our non-disclosure. It's scary shit when you're leaving your job. Yeah. It's scary shit to say the words but to fall on the back. And I hated that. I hated that guys would do that. And even within the GRS or CIA side of the house, guys could have come forward with us. It was, well, I'm going to lose my job. Or the staffers. Well, I'd say something, but I'm going to lose my pension. They're not going to give me my pension. Well, fuck you. Who gives a shit?
Yeah.
What's your moral
What's your
code? Do you have it? Take the, where's your faith? And I admire that. And that's why I never hit up anybody in your position that came out like that and said stuff because like, well, they got it. Yours, it's like, fuck, they're going to come after him. Man, I just want to let him know that he's got a friend here. If he wants to ask anything, I get it. I really, at least I thought I got it.
And I mean, I think that's why the podcast took off. What you're saying resonated with
awesome.
people. Like I said, though, I know you have a heart out, Chris. So, and I want to make sure we hit on this just because I promised we would. We got in touch with you, and I know that these guys are friends of yours as well, and that you really endorse what they do, and that's BioPro Plus. And I know with Chris taking it now, you've like been on board for a while, and you were one of the guys who was early on board. And I just wanted to like hear your thoughts on what they're doing because we've been happy to work with them.
Man, so I ended up a podcast listener that knew Dustin connected us.
Okay.
And we ended up talking on like a 3-way group text, and she's like, hey, this is the product that I put out. Are you interested in doing some kind of sponsorship? But all of my sponsorships, I'm very open about it. I'm like, I'm not going to endorse a product until I use it and then I like it too, period.
Yeah.
Because if any of my listeners were to find out like, oh dude, Greg has this product on his podcast and he hasn't even used it yet. Like what, you know what I mean? Like your words hold a lot of power to them. And if you're going to do something like a podcast, you need to ensure that you're operating under integrity and your moral code because people resonate with that. And then you actually develop relationships with your listeners. And I think it's important. And so I told him that. I said, yeah, send me some stuff. I'll try it. And if I like it, then let's have a conversation about a partnership. And dude, I'm telling you, I tell my listeners all the time, it was almost immediate. Like, and maybe it's because I'm 41. We're at that age where like our hormones are starting to, wane.
Mine have already atrophied, dude. I'm 51, so mine have atrophied. Mine had to get kickstarted back up, man.
And dude, I started using that stuff and I started feeling better, like literally almost immediately. And for me, we've been using supplements since, remember we were getting Cell Tech at the PX when we were 22. And like,
oh shit, I was still getting
and a lot of
Ultra Rip Fuel when it was still legal, taking that in the morning for PT. Holy shit. Yeah.
And there's a lot of supplements that noticing a change in your body because it's so small, it's hard to know if it's placebo or if it's real. But I started taking this stuff and I said straight up, if this is placebo, then my mind is extremely fucking powerful. And I'm going to keep using that alone, But the proof for me is more than my own experience. I get hit up by listeners all the time that are like, dude, I tried BioPro and I feel 25 again. And I would say, like, I think that's probably a good demographic is guys our age that used to be extremely good athletes. And now,
and by the way, that's our demo too, because you see it, you probably know it. Like I look on Spotify, our breakdown, like our listeners are guys in their 30s, 40s, 50s. That's our and guys, particularly like 80-something% guys.
No, and like, I look at my athletic capability. And obviously you're not going to be at your very best at 41, but I feel like I'm still in the mix right now. And it's like, I still train jiu-jitsu nightly. I still push hard. The gym I own is CrossFit and jiu-jitsu. And I feel healthy again. And I feel like my body has good composition and it functions well. And I was dealing with a lot of injuries for a long time. And I'm sure it's a combination of things, but I think that the BioPro definitely played a role into like just feeling a better version of myself.
And it took me a couple of weeks before I started to feel it, but I said, I'm 51 and I got out there on the trampoline. I've been taking it now for about a month and a half. And dude, I ran 8 miles in San Francisco when I went and spoke a couple of weeks ago. I ran down to Hyde Street. Hyde is that long, ran up that sucker. And then I ran down and back up Lombard, then ran back down again. This was just 2 weeks ago. I actually wasn't even that long ago. It was 7 days ago. I was in and like, holy shit, I just ran 8 miles and I ran hills in San Francisco after getting up at 7 a.m. And I came home the next day and was jumping on the trampoline doing flips. It is. It's like, holy shit, I'm a runner. That's what I like to do. I was one of those Rangers that could run. I can just run, dude. Just one of those.
I hate it.
I know you guys hate it. It's like, I just fuck it. Let's go run. I can do this 5 miles. But
had when I got there as a private, my squad leader was one of you.
Who was your squad leader?
Sergeant Bartlett. You remember him by chance?
Oh yeah.
He was an import from I think the 82nd. I forget where he came from, but he didn't grow up in regiment. No, and as an E6.
Yep.
Like coming in as an E6, that's tough, man.
Yeah,
that is tough.
As an import, you're looked at. The privates are like, fuck. Okay, you got your tab, but you didn't grow up here. What the fuck, dude? I don't. Yeah.
So I got to tell you. I mean, you got to bounce, or I got to?
No. Go ahead. He just rang the doorbell. Go ahead. My wife. Go ahead.
It was a good leadership question or leadership experience because we were privates under him, and I had Sergeant Lynch and Sergeant Arredondo as team leaders.
Wow,
both studs.
Yeah. Wow.
Those guys were fucking great team leaders. And I thought that the three of them were best friends, like they seemed to get along perfectly. And we never even had a hint that there was any type of turmoil amongst the leadership within the squad. And then Sergeant Bartlett PCS to Vincenza.
Okay.
He put his packet in and went to Italy because that he wanted a different experience out of the Army. He wanted to travel all over and experience a bunch of different stuff. But as a Ranger, that's the opposite.
Yeah.
Regiment is everything.
You're there. You're stuck.
And as soon as he left, we had a team meeting. Sergeant Rittman took over the squad. So Dave Rittman, who was homegrown in regiment, and man, they're like, thank God Bartlett's fucking gone. And we're like, what are you talking about? And they're like, we fucking hated him. What? Because I mean, this was like a year that we were all together, And I was like, Sergeant, like, are you serious? And he goes, oh yeah. Like we would never let the privates even have a hint of understanding that there was turmoil between the team leader and the squad leader. So we hid that shit from you. But now that he's gone and our squad leader is homegrown here in regiment, you're going to see what a God squad looks like. Because like by that time, most of us were tab.
Yeah. Wow.
It was like,
wow.
Dude, the vibe changed too. It was like, oh, we're all friends now. You know what I mean? Instead of like these different tiers within the squad. But it was just interesting. Like, I mean, that's leadership 101. Like, as a leader, you don't need to project your drama or your bullshit on any of the men underneath you.
You just cause it because it just causes more drama and dissension, and it causes a team to be a poor team, a breakdown in everything, not just leadership, just a breakdown in just normal everyday mechanics. It's terrible. That's no.
And so we always thought our squad was like varsity, because like we had a bunch of good fit dudes. Everybody was motivated. We had a lot of fun together. And then looking back on it, it's like, no, there were some major issues, but they did what they should have done and kept them within amongst themselves.
I always admired that from battalion too. And that's where I learned you thought there was drama in contracting world when you got to in the State Department side of the house. When you got to the agency side, it was even worse for the most part. And there were guys, I tell guys, hey, Oz and I didn't like each other at all. But learning from battalion that we still got to work together. We still got to hold our trauma in. Don't push it out. We got enough problem with the CIA people. We don't need to let them show us that we have a weaker link, so that they can pick at us. That there's an injury that they can just kind of manipulate and make us even more divided, which they like to do, which was shocking because we were their security. But I learned that from battalion too. It was, all right, we're not like each other. The mission is this. We can get along. Let's respect each other while we're here. Stay away from each other. We don't need to hang out. All right, but let's go 110%, 100% and then some. And it worked. I always tell, when I do my speaking events, I say that. I say, hey, there's this misnomer that everybody in the special operations community gets along. I said, fuck, I don't say fuck, but I said, that is completely wrong. I mean, you do have teams that are like that, but I said, you can't put a bunch of alpha males together and they're all going to get along. It just doesn't work like that. But what you can do is you can respect each other, and you put the mission first, and you put the job first, and you still get things done. But know that you may not get along with everybody on your team. That doesn't mean you can't have a successful team. And I learned that from Range Battalion. I really did.
Yeah, I just want to point out, by the way, that this always happens.
Oh shit! Yeah, I know.
To me. Chris will be like, look, I got a hard out at 11:30. I got to be out at that time. Make sure we're done. I'm not the one.
I know he's
so if Tanya is listening, I've been trying to end this interview. But Chris is enjoying it too much. I mean, we could clearly go another hour here. There was a lot to discuss, and we definitely will do a part 2. If you guys want to check out BioPro, by the way, definitely check them out. bioproteintech.com. Promo code Battleline at checkout. And of course, we got to promote what Greg is doing at Granderson33 on Instagram. And the podcast, Endless Endeavor, is up on all podcast platforms. You guys got to check it out. I mean, it's incredible, and it's getting great reviews. And for as long as it's been going on, which is shorter than us, it really has just expanded pretty quickly.
And I always tell people when I talk about going into the podcasting world, it was Andy Stump. He had me on Cleared Hot. Yeah. And, he's a SEAL and I'm a Ranger, but we vibed, and we're both jiu-jitsu guys, right? And so he picked me up at the airport in Kalispell. We drove to the studio, and we started recording within 10 minutes of being together. And so it's like, it almost felt like sitting down with an old friend, just because of these paths that we walked and mutual people that we know. And it made for a very powerful podcast, because I got to sit down with him for 3 hours as opposed to the Laura Ingraham approach. Right.
Yep.
And so I got tons of good feedback, and people were like, that interview was awesome. You should think about doing your own. And I remember that was like, that feels kind of weird, but I got enough positive feedback. I said, let's try it. Let's see how this goes. And I know we're trying to wrap this up, but I'll say this real quick. The most rewarding thing about podcasting for me is I don't care how many downloads I get. I've got to interact with a lot of very interesting human beings all over the world, share people's experiences. And I get emails all day that are like, hey, you talked about this guy and his diet, and I tried it and it changed my life. And I'm down this much weight, and me and my wife are getting along better. And it just made me realize, like, your words have power. And us sitting down and doing these things together, like, it's 3 dudes hanging out, telling some stories, but this might impact somebody somewhere that we have no idea who or when, and it might change the trajectory of their life for the better. And that's why these things are so fun. And that's why I prioritize always trying to get on shows whenever I get invited, because like, we have the power to actually impact the planet with words. So I appreciate you guys having me on.
Oh, bro, I won't get you on again, bro. I'm sorry about only going. Well, I normally only schedule for an hour, but when I have fun, Ian's right. We keep, and I'm having a blast. But fuck, I gotta go do the daddy husband thing outside.
Yeah, this was probably one of my favorite shows, because people love the Ranger stories and the training story, and like, you had some really in-depth stories people are gonna love. I met Andy Stump really briefly at SHOT Show. The funny thing with him, I'll just tell you real quickly, people know if they listen to the SHOT Show episode, was, I had my iPhone on me. It was a quick thing. And I just said, hey, I'm here with Navy SEAL Andy Stump. And I know Andy Stump, like, very, vaguely. I'm not like a regular listener. And the first thing he says, he's like, I'm not a Navy SEAL. And in my head, I'm like, fuck, did I get this guy's biography wrong? And he's like he's very like particular about this. He was like, I'm a former Navy SEAL. Like, there's a big difference. Like, I don't want to, and I don't know. I've interviewed, I feel like a million Navy SEALs. No one has ever been like, don't call me a Navy SEAL. I'm a former Navy, but that was like a big thing with him. But I'd love to get him on at some point.
Yeah,
so,
Andy.
Yeah, he seems like a cool guy.
Andy wants his identity to be what he's doing right now. And I think for veterans, that's one of the most important things that you can tell yourself is like, don't reflect back on your glory days or what you did in combat is what defines you as a man. That was an experience. It helped grow you who you are. But man, you got to look at the road ahead of you. And dude, the best is yet to come. And if you don't tell yourself that, that's when I think a lot of veterans start to spiral and tell themselves the sad story. And that's a dangerous thing to do to yourself. I
agree. And the best is going to be yet to come here in a little bit, or the worst when my wife doesn't see me outside with the contractor. I'm gonna get my
we'll
hey man,
it up, guys.
Greg, you're always welcome, man. You're awesome, dude, man. Again, it's always there. You got through it a lot better than I did, but I admire the hell out of you, because a lot of guys didn't do that. Then they use their job. I fucking hate that. And I admire the hell that you did that, dude. That was awesome. So great job, brother.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
That's all for this episode of the Battleline podcast. but we'll be back on Monday with more American Straight Talk. Until then, be sure to follow us on Instagram at Battleline Podcast and on Twitter at Battleline Pod. To sign up for future Battleline tactical courses, go to www.christantoperanto.net. Believe in yourself, face all challenges head on, and as always, never quit.